looking for a budget that will help you reach your financial goals and allows you to pay for your purchases with your debit card? If so, then you have come to the right place. This is not your average budget video. You do not need to carry around your cash in envelopes. Heck, you do not need to carry around cash at all. Unless that's your thing, then you do you. Hey there, welcome back to Newfound Dreamer, where I help you create the life of your dreams. Today's video is part 2 of our budgeting series, and I'm going to show you how to set up your budget and track your expenses. I recommend also watching part 1 of this series, how to create a budget that actually works, to understand the prep work that you need to do before you start budgeting. I will link it in the cards above and in the show notes below in case you missed it. Your budget will be broken down into 5 parts: income and other funds, fixed expenses, savings and debt repayment, your essentials, and other expenses. Your income includes the net income that you expect to receive per pay period and any other income that you expect to receive during the month. Unexpected income should not be included in your budget, but I do recommend that you include it in your actuals. Other funds include income that you carried over from the previous week's or month's budget, savings that you plan to use during the budget period, and any payments that you plan to make using a credit card, loan, or line of credit. I'm not going to sit here and tell you not to use your credit card. That's your decision. If you are disciplined enough to pay off your credit card balance each month and want to use a credit card to gain points, then go for it. But if you have a history of not paying off your credit card balance each month, letting the balance grow and the interest accumulate, or you are paying off debt, then I recommend using credit as an absolute last resort. Fixed expenses include expenses such as mortgage or rent, insurance, car payments, minimum monthly debt payments, cell phone, utilities, internet and cable, monthly or annual subscriptions, property taxes, professional membership fees, and so on. These are your recurring bills and have a set due date. They are typically the same amount every month, but some of them may fluctuate, such as your power bill. Any fixed expenses that are due annually should be divided by 12 to determine your monthly contribution amount. Quarterly expenses should be divided by 3, and so on. This ensures that you set aside enough so that you are able to pay the bill when it comes due. Savings and debt repayment include debt payments above the monthly minimum and money that you plan to contribute to your savings goals, such as emergency savings, retirement savings, your travel fund, and so on. Create realistic timeframes for your debt repayment and savings goals. Then divide the total amount that you want to contribute by the number of months. This will give you the amount that you need to set aside each month to ensure that you reach your debt repayment and savings goals. A realistic timeframe means that you can make your contributions to your savings and additional debt payments while still having enough money left over for your essentials and discretionary spending. Your essentials are expenses that you need to allocate money for, such as groceries, gas, pet food, hygiene products, medications, etc. As the name suggests, this is the money that you budget to ensure that you have enough to cover your essential purchases. And finally, your other expenses or discretionary spending. You have already set aside enough to cover your fixed expenses, savings and debt repayment, and your essentials. Anything remaining is considered your discretionary spending or your guilt-free spending. Allocate this however you wish. At this time, it is important to note that if your expenses are greater than your income, you only have 2 options. You either need to decrease your expenses or increase your income. I know this is easier said than done, but if your expenses are greater than your income, then you need to find a way to get it under control or you will be caught in a vicious debt cycle. Since my monthly budget is broken down by pay period, I have included an area for rollovers. I suggest that you budget to 0 each pay period. But since some pay periods have more bills or more expenses due than others, the rollover area is for funds that you are transferring from one pay period to another to help cover all expenses. Now, without further ado, let me walk you through an example. For the purposes of this video, all numbers are made up. They do not reflect my actual income or expenses and are only used to demonstrate how this budget method works. Your budget needs to reflect your own personal situation, and how you spend your money will be different than shown in this example. I have included a link to the budget spreadsheet in the show notes below in case you are interested in trying this method or following along.
This is what you see when you open the spreadsheet. As you can see, I have included 5 columns for pay periods during the month in case you are paid weekly and it is a month with 5 pay periods. But you can delete any columns that you do not use. There is a section for your budget, a section to track your actuals, and the column on the end will calculate your monthly variance. Under each section, I have included some common categories and additional space. Relabel them if needed and delete any rows you do not need. I have already set up my spreadsheet for this example. You will need to update 2 cells if you delete any pay periods. So as you can tell on the bottom here, there's some error messages in the cells. So you will need to update the calculation for the rollover to equal the last pay period of the month. So I'm going to do that for both budget and the actuals. So you can see now that all the errors fix themselves. Okay, so for this example, let's pretend that I get paid twice per month on the 15th and on the 30th. I have the 30th as my first pay column of the month, since this will cover the first 2 weeks of the month, and the 15th will cover the expenses for the last of the month. Let's pretend that I get paid $2,250 is my net income per pay period. And for this example, let's also pretend that I have a side hustle, but the income is inconsistent. So you have 2 options. Use a monthly average, which is great if your income is relatively consistent per month, or the minimum you expect to receive, which is great if your income varies significantly from one month to the next. Let's pretend that after reviewing the past 6 months, I noticed that my side hustle income varies greatly each month, and the lowest amount that I earn per month is $100. I am going to include $100 for my side hustle income. Move on to fixed expenses. So let's pretend that I rent, and my rent is $750 per month. And I also have insurance at a rate of $50 per month. And my car payment is $150 biweekly. So to determine the monthly amount that I need to set aside for my car payment, I am going to multiply the amount by 26, since there are 26 payments per year, then divide by 12. And since my budget has 2 pay periods per month, I'm going to go a step further and divide that by 2 to get the amount that I need to set aside each pay period. So that equals approximately $163 per pay period. Okay, so my cell phone, let's pretend that's $75 per month. Pretend that my power bill is approximately $200 per month. Internet is $100, Netflix is $10, pet insurance $100, minimum debt payments of $50, and my professional membership fees. Let's assume that that's $1,200, which equals $100 per month that I need to set aside here. I'm also going to move this over the spread out some of the payments a little bit. Now that your monthly expenses are covered, it's time to pay yourself. And by paying yourself, I mean set aside money to reach your financial goals, both paying off debt and contributing to your savings. Let's pretend that I have a credit card debt totaling $6,000 with an interest rate of 10% and a monthly minimum payment of $50. I want to pay this off over the next 12 months, so I'm going to set aside $500 per month to pay this debt off within 12 months. Since interest accumulates, you may want to use an online debt calculator to help you determine the monthly payment to reach your goal. So I'm going to pay $250 per pay period. In addition, I want to build an emergency savings fund of $10,000 over the next 18 months. I am going to contribute $400 a month for the next 12 months and then add $500 for my additional debt payments once the debt is paid off. So I'm going to set aside $200 per pay period. As for retirement savings, let's assume that I contribute to an RRSP fund set up by my employer and my employer matches my contribution. At this time, I have decided not to set aside any additional funds for retirement. Also, my other savings goal is creating a travel fund, and I have decided to contribute $200 per month towards my travel fund. Okay, so now that we have taken care of our savings and debt repayment, it is time to move on to the essentials. So let's assume that my groceries are $400 per month, which would be $200 per pay period. My gas is $200 per month, so split over 2 pay periods, that's $100 per month. And I spend approximately $100 on pet food. Now that the fixed expenses, debt, savings, and essentials are taken care of, any leftovers can be spent however you like. In this example, I have $1,039 in discretionary spending money for the month. This is guilt-free spending money that I get to spend however I want. As long as I stay within this amount, I am making progress on my financial goals. Let's pretend that I have friends visiting at the end of the month for a weekend of snowboarding. I want to spend $100 on lift tickets and $100 for a dinner out and drinks with my friends. So I'm going to put aside $100 in entertainment and $100 for eating out / takeout. I would also like to attend yoga class once per week. A 4-week pass is $50 and it is due upfront before the first class. I would also like to pick up takeout for supper on Friday nights, and let's assume that each time I order takeout, I spend $50. So that's $100 per week in takeout. So I'm going to increase the last pay period to $200. My friend's birthday is at the end of the month, and I'm going to budget $50 for a gift for her. I also have a mani-pedi booked at the end of the month, which will cost approximately $150. And on the same day, I have a groomer appointment booked for my dog, which will cost about $50. I don't have anything else planned, so I'm going to set the remaining to miscellaneous. Whatever I don't spend, I will put towards my debt to pay it off sooner. But if anything comes up and I choose to spend it, I can do so knowing that I'm still on target to reach my debt repayment and savings goals. Okay, so for this example, I have $237 remaining at the end of week 1. So instead of setting that to miscellaneous, I'm actually going to roll that over. So I'm going to put my $237 here and bring it up into the next pay period. And then at the end of the month here, I'm going to set my miscellaneous to $339. During the month, I will keep track of my actual spending and input them into the spreadsheet. I track my actuals on a weekly basis, which works well for me since I am paid weekly, but for this example, I may choose to track it twice a month instead. I recommend tracking on a frequency that works well for you. Okay, so your fixed expenses will be relatively consistent to what you are booking as your fixed expenses, because most of them are predictable, but when we get down to your monthly essentials, these may vary. Okay, so as you can see, I have $297 that I can roll over to the next pay period. So as you can see, I have an extra $439 remaining that I did not spend. So I'm going to add that to my extra debt payments, $689. And then if I go down below, that should balance to $0. The last column in this spreadsheet will automatically track your monthly variances. So as you can tell, I earned $400 more than I expected during the month. And I also spent $400 more than I had budgeted for the month. I like knowing my variances because it allows me to make any necessary adjustments to my budget for future months.
I hope you found this budget tutorial helpful. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below. I have included a link to the budget spreadsheet in the show notes in case you are interested in giving this method a try. That is all for today. Be sure to subscribe so you do not miss out on future videos. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and remember to do one thing today that will bring you closer to living your dream life. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.